So today we'll be looking at improper and mixed fractions. And these are special types of fractions which occur when we have a whole or more, or essentially more than a whole. So it's fractions which you'll see for improper fractions have a larger numerator than a denominator. Now this will all become clear in a minute, but we're just going to work through this one example and we're going to identify some improper and mixed fractions from this example. So here we can clearly see I've drawn three semicircles here. So we've got one, two, and three. And each of these semicircles makes up half of a whole. So half of an entire half of an entire circle. So I'm just going to label in here that we have that this one is a portion of a half, this one is a portion of a half, and this is a portion of a half. I used an example previously of the idea of pizzas. So we can think of these as, we've got half a pizza here, we have another half of pizza, and a third half. So looking at these, we see that, we have three lots of a half portion. So going through what we know about adding together fractions, we see that all of these have the same denominator. So they are parts of the same thing. So we can write here that we're looking at half plus a half plus another half. Plus another half. And when we have three lots of a half, we just add all of the numerators together. So we have 1 plus 1 plus 1 all over 3. Oh, sorry, not over 3. All over the place today. All over 2. And we're going to end up with essentially 3 halves. We have 3 over 2. Now, what does this imply? Well, we can see it visually here that if I were to say connect these two halves, I would get one whole pizza with a half left over. So our improper fraction is in the form where the numerator is bigger than the denominator. Now, and I'm going to actually label this here. So we have that this is an improper fraction. And from what we can see visually, we have one whole pizza and one half pizza. So I'm going to first write this in words. So we have one whole plus one half. That's what our 3 over 2 tells us. Now, we are going to express this as a mixed fraction here. So we have our two halves, which make up a whole. So if I were to take these two as separate elements, so this is one, that's my whole, and this is my half. So in this section here, I'd have 2 over 2, essentially, right? So I'd have 2 over 2, so this is my fraction here, plus 1 over 2, my remaining half. Now, 2 over 2 is one whole, so that's just 1. So we can write this as 1 plus a half. And when writing mixed fractions, they are typically in the form of our whole number, and we just put our mixed fraction next to it. So we have, it essentially tells us a very compact way of writing what we need to write. And here we have our whole component, our 1, that's our whole number, and our fraction component. Alrighty. Now that we have these two things written, and I'm also going to label this here. This here is our, not improper. I wrote that before. This is our mixed fraction. Some people call it mixed numerals, but essentially we have two ways of showing the exact same thing. So one is an improper fraction, which shows a numerator which is greater than the denominator, implying there's a whole embedded in here somewhere. And we have this written in a mixed form. So we have our whole number and our fraction component. So we can often move back and forth between these. So our 3/2 is interchangeable with our 1.5. And just for a little bit of intuition, say we wanted to read this from left to right. So I would take my left-hand side. So say I wanted to convert from improper to a mixed numeral. So I'm going to write here imp to mix. This is going to be our conversion. So I have 3/2, and I do this the exact same way I did up here. Well, we notice that there's a hole in here because we would have some 2/2, because 2 over this denominator of 2 gives us a whole, and then we have a remainder up here. So in the same way we did before, we have 2/2 plus 1/2. And from there, we can convert to this form. And we can do it the other way around. We can say, well, okay, we have 1.5 here. So I know my 1 in terms of the same kind of sample set. So we know that we're talking about halves here. So in terms of our entire portion, we know that it'll be something over 2. So this 1 we can rewrite as 2/2, which gets added to 1/2. And then we return back to our improper fraction. So I know I've repeated myself a little bit in this video, but this is more just to really drill in those concepts and show you the ways we can move from one to the other. But once you understand the intuition in terms of looking at these portions and thinking of them as, well, some of these can make a whole and we'll have some remaining fraction, we can lay out our addition of or subtraction of these portions, and we will sometimes, in certain cases, end up with improper fractions or mixed fractions. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.